Welcome to Waywut. This is a rabbit hole podcast where we cover topics ranging from sports to true crime and pop culture to just weird facts. Really, it's just a couple of guys taking turns to present weird topics to each other. We publish episodes on Tuesdays and sometimes on Fridays. You can watch us on YouTube and listen pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, just wherever. We're probably there. We really appreciate you joining us for this episode. And now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Waywut. My name is Darrell. I will be guiding us through today's, I guess today's more of a tale. I would call it a tale.
Could be a fable.
No, it's a tale. Not a fables are just automatically false. You can have a tale that's true. Fables, basically a fairy tale.
Okay.
So here I am with the man wanted in 8 states for reckless jaywalking. Jason.
Reckless? What was I doing? Cartwheels or something?
I don't know. I'm not a witness. Otherwise, I would have already turned your ass in.
Reckless jaywalking.
Reckless jaywalking.
Smearing it all over people's cars?
I don't know. I wasn't there. And the cops can't make me testify because I wasn't there.
Wow. I wonder if that's an actual crime.
I don't know. It just sounded funny whenever I wrote it, so that's what I did.
I see that on the criminal report.
Well, today I want to start off with an accountability rant, which, I guess is almost the equivalent of an old man rant still, because, they're the only ones that really bitch about accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I support the death penalty.
I
do.
Me too. I do too.
I believe if you take something that can't be given back, you should lose everything. You murder someone in cold blood for no reason, for money, for sex, or whatever, then you deserve to die. If you attack and violate people, men, women, or children, any of those things, you violate them and take away their innocence, their sense of safety, their peace of mind, then you deserve to die. Now, the problem is we cannot trust the people that wield that power. And it sucks. It sucks so bad. Because like I said, I want, that kind of a punishment out there, but you got Project Innocence that helped exonerate 375 people with DNA evidence since 1989. And I want to say incredible. Just under 20 of them were actually on death row.
Wow.
Yeah. That it's ridiculous. I mean, these are just cases where they just took and used DNA. Where you actually have something right there in in writing saying, this is not the right person.
Mm-hmm.
So think of all the people where DNA isn't possible. How many other people could end up being in prison that don't deserve to be?
Yeah, all them people saying I didn't do it, you may want to start listening to them.
Yeah, I mean, I've come across in a lot of stories, and eventually in an episode that I have planned, I mean, I'm going to be going over a few of them where people are just absolutely railroaded. I mean, it is so flagrantly obvious that they are railroaded. And whether it's, evidence is hidden, you get some judicial decision that, where the judge says, no, you can't use that evidence that could help, show that person's innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Or whenever you just get absolutely stupid jurors, which I've seen some of those. All of these make our justice system more fallible than I'm comfortable with. I mean, at this point, really, when it comes to death penalty, only time I'm comfortable with it is if you have the full on tape with DNA.
Yeah, DNA is only the for sure thing now. Even tapes.
All that's for sure is that person was there.
Well, yes, but as far as 99.9% accuracy,
99.99%, no, DNA plus a visual representation, which AI is going to screw that up because then somebody's going to be like, no, that's a deep fake.
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen your face on some stuff.
Now, shut up. The worst part whenever it comes to like the Project Innocent stuff, anytime I'm watching some story about it or reading about it, is how much they have to fight just to get evidence tested. There
Uh,
are so many judges and DAs that just don't want to be proven wrong rather
yep.
than serve justice, which is
Yeah.
insane.
It's kind of like umpires. Kind of like umpires.
Uh,
They don't want to
uh,
be called out on their wrong call.
this is no,
I
no,
know
no.
it's a much bigger,
Umpire,
broader
umpire. Well,
thing.
it even just that umpires and refs, they look at something and have to make a split second decision. That's hard. When you're sitting in a courtroom for days, weeks, and months, you know, and and afterwards you find out that you got it wrong, and you just don't want to be wrong. That's messed up. And
Yeah.
that's why I think that we need to hold the keepers of our justice more accountable. This is my accountability rant part.
Okay.
If you are a law enforcement officer or a prosecutor that plants or withholds evidence causing someone to be put on death row, then you should be tried for attempted murder because
Okay.
you're going out of your way to cause someone's death. If it isn't uncovered until after the person is executed, then they need to be tried for murder.
Okay.
I think that's fair. If the person doesn't go on death row, say they just get like life sentence or 10 years or whatever, then the people that cause that should be tried for false imprisonment and obstruction of justice. I don't. I mean, I'm not saying that in every case. There are sometimes, where it looks like they had it right. They thought they had it right, and I've seen where there are DAs that will, jump through hoops to sit there and try to make something right. Where they will be like, okay, yeah, well, let's look at this DNA evidence. We want to make sure that we're doing things the right way.
Right.
And that's cool. But whenever, like they are like withholding evidence, which they found. I mean, there was a DA in Dallas in the 90s that was notorious for that crap. Um, then that whenever it's malicious, then they need to be punished for it just like any other criminal because what they're doing is criminal.
Yeah. They're just trying to get those crime numbers down, get those convictions.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really do want bad people to die. I know it's pretty simple, but I do. But it's hard to really advocate that when you have so many bad actors in that system that we can't trust to get it right, the ones that want to
Hmm.
just win and be right. And as
Hmm.
DNA evidence gets better, I will feel more comfortable about convictions to a degree. Like I said, just because you find like a skin cell somewhere, no, that ain't going to cut it. You start finding semen in places where it ain't supposed to be, you know, and unless you can actually prove that you had a consensual relationship with that person, like those signed consent forms that frat houses need to do now. Like, before we do this, bro, I just need you to sign this before I smash that ass, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then yeah, but yeah, in the end, though, I think if you're like if you're really an advocate for like stricter punishments and stuff like that, then you need to be able to be willing to hold our justice system more accountable and not just lose elections, lose their freedom.
I
That's pretty much
agree.
all. Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah,
I say I agree, but you're asking the justice system to hold the justice system accountable.
yeah, I know. I didn't say it was going to work. I just said what I wanted. The
No, I
whole
like
other
the
thing.
idea. You got to hold people accountable for their wrongdoings. And we've seen plenty of lawyer shows, and we even see lawyers stretch the truth or stretch the law just to
Oh,
get a conviction.
I've got complaints about both sides. Like you have the ACLU and the, def, you know, like the Defending Attorneys Association that are trying to put up laws against genetic genealogy. Which they're like you shouldn't be able to do a trash pull. I'm sorry, you throw something away, it's thrown
It's
away.
trash. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
public.
You discarded it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, you're making it way too hard for us to defend actual guilty people. And it's like, I understand as defending attorneys, it is your job to give the best defense for your client. That is cool. But if your client is guilty, then your best defense for them is trying to get them the least amount the least punishment possible. And as for the
Mm-hmm.
ACLU, those fools are psycho. They're crazy. Those are absolute crazy people. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those. They're one of those ones like PETA where their heart's in the right place, but they're all fucking crazy. That's a divisive one. Just remember how many California listeners we have or had. Depending on if once that other episode airs, that you.
We'll
All
see.
right,
We'll see. Controversy. Controversy.
whatever. All right, well that'll pretty much do it for my rant about that part.
Good rant. It was a good rant.
Well, this whole episode though is going to be kind of a rant.
I like it.
Today, we're going to talk about how a brainless justice system actually created a criminal.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll jump right into this.
Let's do it.
Let me introduce you to a man named Mark DeFriest.
Mark DeFriest.
Yep. Mark DeFriest was born in August of 1960 in Tallahassee, Florida. He was raised by his father in northern Florida, which is the part of Florida that's actually kind of like the South.
Okay.
It's the one where people actually have Southern accents and stuff. Mark was kind of like Rain Man, but instead of counting stuff, he was a whiz whenever it came to engineering and drawing.
Okay.
Yeah. It was said that he could fix or build just about anything. When he was 6 years old, he was taking apart and putting things back together like watches and engines, like car
Wow.
engines and stuff. Yeah.
Damn. My 6-year-olds couldn't make it to the laundry basket.
No. Yeah. Uh, at one point, in an interview later in his life, he talked about how he did experiments at his home in the basement, and that he blew himself up a few times as a kid. It's just kind of like one of those like cartoon mad scientists or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Cool talents aside, Mark has Asperger's syndrome, and he was plagued with the social and emotional troubles that generally come with that. You're not quite autistic, but you're on the spectrum. You got some social
It's
issues and
something.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as he grew, his talents with mechanics increased, but his psychological issues increased as well. He kind of began closing himself off. Now, this is all part of the nature part of Mark DeFries, the stuff he was born with. His upbringing also played a pretty significant part in his eventual fate.
Yeah.
Mark and his father were very close, and they bonded over his mechanical talents, because if you're a mechanical
But
guy and
Dad
you got to,
wouldn't.
yeah, well, it wouldn't work as a bonding thing for me. I can't put shit together.
I would watch
Yeah.
my kid put shit together all day long.
Oh no, I'll watch Violet put stuff together. She's awesome at it. I'm her assistant.
You're the one holding the flashlight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, she's better at it than me. Um, so his father was a World War II vet that served with the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS. You ever heard of them before?
Office of Strategic Services.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, let me tell you what their name is now, because they eventually became the CIA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was with the shady spy people. Now, while bonding with his son over the mechanical stuff, his father also taught him things like avoidance tactics, survival, and defense techniques. You know, like you teach your kid.
Yeah. Or Dexter.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, here, my son, I'm going to teach you these various military and intelligence strategies that were meant to, you know, get
For
me ready
spies.
in case I was
Yeah.
taken prisoner, because I want you to be ready because the Ruskies are going to come over here and invade us. Cold War. They're going to come get us, and that's what his dad taught him.
Huh? Some dads teach baseball. Some dads teach that.
Yeah. So instead of teaching his son to defend himself and prepare for the Russians, Mark's father should have been preparing him to defend himself against a Disney villain, because his dad married the ultimate evil stepmother. Yeah. He married a woman that, for all intents and purposes, hated his son, Mark. It's like, man, I sure do love you. I hate your kid. Man, look, can we get married now? This is great.
This is
Like
going to work
stupid.
out wonderful.
Yeah. In 1979, when Mark was 19 and he was out of the house, he was already married. Found a lady somehow. I don't know all the details on that one, but found a lady, got married, was living on his own. His dad took, the next logical step in a Disney plot and died suddenly. Because that's what the good parents do in Disney
Yep.
movies.
Damn Bambi.
In his will, Mark's father left him his tools. Their bond was fortified with, their love of mechanical work. So this makes sense. He always told him, like, whenever I die, these tools are going to be yours. And he had it in his will. Mark, who had psychological issues already, is now especially distraught because, he lost his dad, and he went to go retrieve those tools almost immediately. The problem with this is that the probate was not complete.
Mm-hmm.
So evil stepmother did the evil stepmother thing and called the cops on Mark for stealing the tools that his father left him in his will.
Oh my goodness.
She knew that his father wanted him to, have them, but it's technically before she wanted him to have them, and definitely before the law was meant for him to have them. Because it has to go through probate for
Mm-hmm.
whatever damn reason, so they can, be like, yep, that's what it says. This is yours. The executor said so. All right. Well, she called the cops on him, and when the cops show up at his place, the guy that was horrible in social situations, raised with, to learn survival tactics and avoidance tactics, and has been living in mostly solitude, did what he's gonna do. He freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
He grabbed a gun and he made a run for it. The cops began chasing him, and with his mental state, he figured this was all some sort of government conspiracy.
Okay.
Uh, they caught him and they arrested him. Uh, he never pointed a gun at anyone. He had the gun, but he never pointed at anyone. So they didn't charge him with attempted murder or anything like that. Instead, in the name of Florida justice, they charged him for theft of, stealing the stuff that was going to be his, and felonious possession of a firearm, which I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
really get the explanation of that. I mean, he didn't have a record or nothing, so it's kind of weird. So, in the name of Florida justice, they sentenced him to 4 years in jail.
Damn.
4 years
Wow.
for taking property that was literally just days away of being rightfully his, and then running from the police while having a gun was enough for them to be like, "Yeah, 4 years. That 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 you're 19 years old. Don't worry. We'll let you out after, when you're 23, 24."
So
You
I'm
know,
guessing since he was arrested, the probate proceedings came to a halt, or they got
no,
changed.
no. They went through. Once he was in prison, all the tools that were confiscated from him were given
Mm.
to his wife. So they're like, "Here, hold on to these."
Oh, to his wife. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you meant
No, not
his.
the evil stepmother. Not
Okay,
the evil
okay, okay.
step. His wife. Now we start the part of the story that Mark DeFriest is famous for. Let's talk about the Houdini of Florida.
Yes, I was hoping yours was going to go there.
Appalachia Correctional Institute in Sneads, Florida was not a good place for Mark. He was beaten and assaulted by other inmates while in there. And by assaulted, I mean struggle snuggled.
Struggled, snuggled. Oh.
Try not to use that word that rhymes with grape. Uh, he once he was in there and all that bad stuff was happening to him, he advised his wife at the time to go ahead and give up on him. Because he knew he was not going to come out of there with a better mind than he went in with. He knew it was messing him up while he was in there because he
Yeah,
was already kind of a broken person, and all that stuff happening was messing him up worse.
I can see that.
So I need you and the audience to all kind of get in the right mindset. And to do that, we all need to simplify our thinking.
Done.
Be simple. Your dad dies and says you can have something: tools, baseball card, a really nice curling iron, whatever. You're not a social person. You don't know the ins and outs of the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
You know the things you like to know and the stuff your dad taught you. Everything else is just noise. You go and get what your dad said you could have. Cops come after you and you run because, they want to take what your dad said you could have.
Yep.
They catch
And they
you,
come
they
by
toss you.
surprise.
Yeah. They catch you, they toss you in jail for taking what your dad said you could have. In jail, you're getting beaten up and assaulted and in horrible ways that are going to just destroy your mind and other parts of your body.
I was glad to say that too. Oh man.
What do you do? Any sane person says, "Oh, you get out of that situation."
Yeah. You get you a big ass poster and start digging a hole in the wall.
Yeah. Well, one evening, Mark had a chance to get out, and he took it. Mark, along with 8 other inmates, made a dash for the fence.
Eight
There's one of those
others.
moments.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one of those moments where they're kind of like, just go for it.
Yeah,
So 8
carpe
of them
diem.
run for it. They're like, can't catch us all. The fence was covered in razor wire, but this was no issue for him because his dad had been training him for stuff like that since he was little.
Mm-hmm.
And so, most of the other ones got hung up on that or freaked out and just like, no, I ain't going to get chopped up. And in the end, it was only Mark and 2 of the other inmates that made it past the fence. They got over the fence. Once over the fence, he made his way to one of his friends' houses. Uh, and in a not so good friend move, he hotwired his friend's truck. And so
Mm.
now he's a car thief. He's officially, in at least my eyes, a legitimate criminal now because
Mm-hmm.
he actually, he broke a law.
Yeah.
I mean, he broke law technically before, but I mean, that's bullshit stuff. He's a legitimate criminal now. He made it to Tallahassee with the 2 other escapees, where they were caught in a hotel after the stolen truck had been identified. So he wasn't gone that long, just like a week or so. Following the escape, Mark faced 6 charges, including burglary, grand theft, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Yeah. So now instead of crimes that resulted from a misunderstanding, these are just, actual criminal acts that he's committing, you know, while he's trying to escape jail and stay out. I'm not defending the fact that, he's stealing cars and stuff like that he's breaking these laws. But when you're a fugitive and being pursued by the law, you don't exactly get to do normal things. You can't go rent a car.
Right. Yeah, you can't go
Yeah.
buy something at the store.
Which is going, I'll cut to the chase. This is going to be the theme of the episode where would he have ever committed any crimes had he not been jailed for a bullshit charge to begin with.
Probably not. Probably not. It's like
Yeah.
the part in Shawshank when he says he had to be put in prison to become a criminal.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, either way, now he's a real criminal. Mark, not being normal in the head at all, pled guilty to all 6 charges against the advice of his attorney. He's just like, yep, guilty. He just didn't want to go through court. He's like, no, I don't want to deal with it. I'm guilty. The lawyer did the right thing and called his client's mental health into question. In January of 1981, after a psych evaluation found him to be unstable, depressed, suicidal, and mentally unfit to stand trial, they transferred him to the Florida State Hospital in Chattahoochee. Way down yonder in Chattahoochee.
I heard it gets pretty hot down there.
Oh, yeah, no, this hospital got hotter than a hoochie coochie. Now, it was while at this mental hospital that he made what's probably his most interesting escape. Yeah, maybe. It's debatable. So, psychedelics are sometimes used in some forms of therapy.
Yes.
Mark Mark got the idea that he would steal some LSD from and drug the staff so that he could, have the time to pick the locks and leave while everybody's all confused and tripping balls.
Okay. Solid plan.
Yeah. He successfully stole the LSD from the drug closet and managed to put the entire contents of the bottle he stole into the staff's coffee pot before the shift change.
Man,
I
he is
forget how
slick.
many hits of acid that were technically in that bottle, but it was a ton.
It's the strongest coffee ever.
Yeah. He did not make a good choice in chemicals to spike the coffee with that amount. One nurse aide was staring at a running clothes dryer that eventually infuriated him, and he attacked the dryer. The man beat the hell out of it and pulled the door off.
You quit spitting right now.
This is mine now.
Oh, you go
One
to
of the
tumble dry.
one of the psychiatrists was walking up and down the halls screaming that her pussy was hot. My pussy's hot. My pussy's hot.
I told you it gets hot down there. That's where that fucking song came from.
Well, with all this craziness happening, the hospital locked down that ward. They're like, "Oh, nope. Lock the doors. Shut that stuff down over there."
Make some
And
more
so,
coffee. Let's go.
yeah, his attempt to escape was thwarted before it ever even began. He didn't even get to try to pick a lock. They locked that stuff down. He couldn't get out. So it was a failed attempt.
Was
Um,
it? But at least he has entertainment for the next 6 days, probably.
I guess. Now, from what I could see, like source wise, this story is all according to Mark that he said. Um, I could not find anything reported from like Florida law enforcement or the state hospital confirming or denying whether or not that happened. Which is crazy because, like, with Florida police reports, the reason you always hear about Florida man is Florida police reports are ready like immediately for public consumption. You don't have to do FOIA requests or anything like that. You can just grab them, and that's why news always says Florida man did this, Florida man did that, because they can sit there and just
Pluck
go
them right off
through
the
all
news
the police
wire.
reports and find stuff that they think is
Mhm.
cool. Either way, I really hope that story's true. I mean, nobody got hurt. It's pretty damn funny. I mean, the dryer got hurt, but who cares about that?
Oh man, that's pretty good.
Yeah. After the LSD escape did not work, it was back to the drawing board for Mark. Florida State Hospital had a crafts and woodworking area that they were very proud of, and Mark would attend sessions in there. Which, why do you have a woodworking? I get having crafts at a mental hospital, and I mean, I guess a sign of the times. They really weren't thinking about stuff like that. But it's like, yes, here, we're going to work with wood. Here's some sharp objects to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, while in the craft area, Mark's engineering mind took over, and using wood, copper tubing, match heads, and a pencil, he created 2 double barrel zip guns.
Damn.
Yeah, zip guns are just basically homemade guns.
Okay.
You build your own gun. Like not, like a potato gun. I guess a potato gun would be a kind of zip gun, but essentially it is creating a way to like propel a projectile that's not, a
Through
manufactured
force. Yeah.
gun.
Okay.
He had his escape tools now. He just needed the opportunity to use them. To get the opportunity, he pried out one of his back teeth.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not an easy thing to do.
No, I mean, he's so, obviously mentally stable. With his mouth full of blood, he told a nurse on duty that he needed a dentist because his tooth fell out. Escorted by a one-armed guard and 2 nurse aides, he was taken to the dentist, who quickly identified it as self-mutilation, which, he's in a mental hospital, so
Mm-hmm.
that's not uncommon. So he
Mm-hmm.
patched him up, sent him on his way. On the way back, Mark pulled both zip guns and told no one to move or he'd blow their heads off. Everyone laughed at him. They figured he was just a crazy person with a couple of just toy guns that he made, obviously. He then pointed one of the guns at a desk and shot a phone off of it. And it all of a sudden stopped being funny.
Yeah.
He got out of the hospital, but they, he got outside, he went through the woods, he got to a car, and he got busted while he was trying to steal that car. So they caught him again.
Man, he gets a really good inventive plan to get out, and then his plan just goes to shit. Like he doesn't
Look,
put
yeah,
much plan after it.
yeah. I mean, if he was just matter of like wanting to just stay out in the woods, he probably could have done that. But he was always trying to just get away. This was the breaking point for his wife because she worked at that hospital, so she didn't really care for that. And the hospital was supposed to be there to help him. That was his chance to get help, and he messed that up. So
Okay.
that was kind of like the breaking point for her. She tried very hard to stick with him, and it's the documentaries that you watch. I mean, it is true. I mean, I'm not true, but it's obvious that that's how she felt. The hospital did not want him back. So it was back to jail with him. And his wife, like I was saying, she sits there and sees this. She correctly assumed that he's going to keep doing this and never get out. So she filed for divorce, which he understood, and he let it cut loose. They began holding him at the Bay County Jail in Panama City, Florida. He really, really went off at this place. While in a straitjacket and leg irons, he freed himself of them within 5 minutes and began tearing apart his cell.
Dang.
Yeah. They wanted that to stop, so they put him into a padded cell. There, he tore down a light fixture from the wall and found a way inside of the gaps in the wall. Inside there, he was able to pry a metal bar loose that he used as a makeshift crowbar to pry his cell door open. He
God.
didn't get out of the building on that one. They got him, restrained him, and they locked him back up. I mean,
Man.
but this is what they had to keep dealing with.
He's resilient. He's
Yeah,
resilient.
just over and over. So the Florida justice system, again, started doing, did psychological evaluations on him. They wanted to make sure that he was competent to stand trial for that recent, escape and car theft attempt.
Uh-huh.
5 psychiatrists evaluated him. 4 found him to not be competent to stand trial. One did find him competent to stand trial. This one psychiatrist just happened to be the director of the ward that Mark had escaped from while at Florida State Hospital.
Gee,
He's like,
maybe he shouldn't have been having a vote.
well, I mean, they're like, well, he was obviously one of his doctors, but I mean, it's like, he's obviously a guy that also didn't want him back.
Mm-hmm.
So, the state of Florida, being, as reasonable as they've been so far, decided to go with the one evaluation that said he was competent. And they put him on trial.
I don't think that's how
Uh,
votes work.
well, it wasn't a vote. It was just, here's a bunch of psychological evaluations, and they're like, we like this one.
Which one meets our narrative? That one.
Yeah. While, while they're waiting to get his trial going and all that, he continued with his escape attempts just over and over. And eventually it caught the attention of the newspaper, who began calling him the Houdini of Florida. While, in Bay County, he kept creating makeshift guns, including one with a barrel made from a toothpaste tube.
Damn, that's pretty
Yeah.
creative.
In one of the attempts, he fired the gun off like he did at the mental hospital. He claimed that whenever he did that, it was to show the guards that the gun was real, and it worked. It worked because he made it to work. It worked, and they were like, "Oh my god!" Now they know it's real. Like before, no one was hurt, but the state of Florida decided that him firing that zip gun was good enough to finally charge him with attempted murder.
Oh man.
So his time has just extended greatly.
Yeah. He keeps multiplying.
This is whenever they put him in solitary, but not regular solitary. He had proven that he could make almost anything out of nothing, out of
Mm-hmm.
almost nothing.
Freaking
He,
MacGyver.
yeah, he can make it out of almost nothing. So instead, they made sure he had access to nothing. Now, I read this in documents from the Bay County Jail. So this is documented. This isn't from him. This is
Mm-hmm.
what the jail said. He was assigned solitary for 11 days straight without lights, clothes, sheets, mattress, toiletries, or even toilet paper.
Gross.
Yeah. They even went the extra step of turning off the water in his cell.
For 11 days?
So he was naked in a dark room with an unflushable toilet and no way to clean himself.
Jesus.
He was forbidden to have eating utensils, so he had to eat with his hands. No running water and eating with your hands. That's gross. It's inhumane. Now, occasionally, in that 11-day period, to make sure that he was clean, they would mace him to subdue him before hosing him off. Just run a hose over him real fast, toss him back in. That way, he could at least be somewhat clean.
Get that stench off of him.
Yeah. So after 11 days of near POW camp conditions, they offered him a plea deal. Take life in prison for attempted murder, and they drop all the other charges, and they'll take him out of that dungeon that they put him in.
Mm-hmm.
He took the offer. He took the plea deal. Now, this and the fact that this happened like this, if there's no clear case of coercion of getting someone to plead guilty,
Yeah.
seen him all, and it's documented.
Yeah, they put him under such distress, he was going to say yes to anything.
Yeah, 11 days of no sunlight, nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
That ain't right.
Now, normally there's a process to get someone from jail to prison, and sometimes that process could be months, sometimes even longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
There's paperwork to happen. They have to find space, all sorts of stuff, transport. The Bay County Sheriff and the judge worked together to get Mark out of the Bay County Jail to the prison in Lake Butler, Florida, the same day he was sentenced.
Damn. Expedite this mofo.
His psych evaluations were August 3rd, and he was sentenced and shipped off by August 14th.
Wow. Man.
Yeah, Bay County didn't care about anything but getting him out of their hair. You know, you're in jail, and you have a guy that you can't keep in jail unless you put him in like the most deplorable, situation possible. Because otherwise, he's going to
He's going
find
to
a
find
way
a
out.
way. Yeah.
All right. This episode's been going on for quite a while, so we're going to do a quick recap.
Okay.
A guy took tools that were supposed to be his, and now he's serving life in prison. There's your fucking recap.
Thank you, Cliff's Notes.
Yeah, no problem. I know that it's oversimplifying things, but had the Florida justice system used just some common sense, yeah, in that first instance with the tools that were willed to him after his father just died, then there's no way it could have escalated this, and everyone would be happy, except for that cunt of an evil stepmother. But, Mark would not be in prison, and the state of Florida would not look like monstrous idiots.
Yeah. Did you read what happened to the stepmother?
No,
where was she?
She went on and lived her life.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't like this ain't that much of a Disney movie. Just the first part.
Okay. She didn't visit him in prison every day and wish him bad luck. And
no, you can put people on a do not visit list. So if she ever tried that, he could easily make sure she never comes and sees him. It's one of the few things that prisoners can do. While in the Florida State Penitentiary, he accrued 209 disciplinary reports for escape attempts, destroying prison property, having escaped contraband, and for being disobedient. And the way he was being disobedient was whenever they would ask him for his name. So if the guards were like, "What's your name?" he would always say 007 James Bond. Every time, just to be an asshole. The escape contraband that they would find would be things like pieces of a hacksaw wedged into the sole of a shoe, a homemade handcuff key, and then sometimes scarier stuff like a homemade ice pick.
Dang.
Which, I think, still just a shank. They had to tell the guards to keep their keys in their pockets because he could make copies of those keys out of various materials just by seeing the cut of a key.
Wow. Photographic memory. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Altogether, he had his time extended for attempting to escape 13 times, and he successfully actually got out of the prison 5 of those times.
That's a pretty good batting average.
Yeah. Which I do want to take a moment to point out that some countries don't consider escaping prison a crime because it's human nature to seek freedom, to not want to be locked up. Now, that being said, even in those countries where escaping prison is not a crime, they will be charged with any crimes they commit while escaping prison. Like property damage if they like break a prison wall or stealing cars, stuff like that. I'm personally okay with that because if a prison is dumb enough to let you walk out without being violent or breaking stuff and you just walk out, I don't think you should get any extra time for it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That's their fault.
Get a slow clap.
It's hard to be mad at Mark for trying to get out, even though because the original reason he was in jail was just so stupid. And then you have like the dungeon treatment that he got at Bay County. And then, how I talked about it, in that first jail, things got rough. It got even worse when he was at Florida State Penitentiary. He was assaulted by 14 or 15 guys so violently that it required surgery to fix the damage they caused to his rectum.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. The more I learned about him and his situation, the more evil things I wish on that stepmom of his. It's just like
Yeah.
I hope something. I mean, like karma or hell need to be real because it's the only justice that's ever going to be seen in that.
Man.
Now it took a couple of decades, but eventually that one psychiatrist that the state listened to whenever he said he was competent to stand trial, finally figured out that Mark was mentally ill.
Wow.
Yeah, the
Welcome
psychiatrist
to the
blamed
party.
yeah, he blamed his perceptions that he had when he was younger, believing that if someone was mentally ill, they would not be able to plot and plan escapes and be calm while executing them. He has since changed his opinion, recognizing that as those are psychopathic behaviors. Derp. Which I'd like to note that this, Mark is a good example that not every psychopath is violent. You uh, just because you're a psychopath doesn't mean you're going to be like a killer. Psychopaths lack fear of consequences, and they do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. That's why so many CEOs are psychopaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Mark, that was doing whatever it took to escape and survive without killing or hurting anyone. Which he had numerous opportunities to do. He just, that wasn't the way he wanted to do it. But it's that ability to survive that eventually made him become an inmate's girlfriend. Despite hating every second of it, he just wanted to be safe. He wanted to be protected. This guy said, "Be my bitch, I'll protect you." And that's what he did. And whenever like watch a documentary or read interviews, he's very open about how far he was willing to go to survive, which is so crazy because he also had suicidal tendencies. So go figure. Dude was
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
As for the escapes, it got to a point where, I mean, he did one out, but for the most part, he found it fun. They told him that he couldn't leave, and he found it funny to prove them wrong.
Yeah. Challenge accepted.
It'd be funny if it wasn't for how much, it worsened his situation. His life went on behind bars. He invented what he referred to as his butt man. It was a homemade Walkman that he could hide in his butt whenever necessary. He'd get weed and homemade liquor, and unfortunately, he also ended up getting into some harder drugs. He ended up developing a meth addiction because that happens while people are in prison. Because
Yeah. What else are you gonna do?
well, I mean,
It's
the
constant.
fact that
It's
they get in
everywhere.
there is just it's infuriating. Because if anything, because there's so many people that go to prison because they do something on drugs, and then they can't, in prison you can't keep anybody clean. Uh, Also, while in prison, he married a prison pen pal, which was really good because it finally gave him someone on the outside that could fight for him. And she did. In 2014, Mark got his very first parole hearing. After 33 years in prison, a guy that never physically harmed a single person got his first parole hearing.
Dang.
It was a successful hearing, and his potential release date was reduced from 2085 to 2015.
Oh, pretty significant reduction there.
Yeah, that was until they considered his outstanding sentences for his infractions while in prison for marijuana, cocaine, and other contraband. So then they ended up moving it again to 2019. And eventually in 2019, Mark was granted parole under the condition that he would spend 1 year in a mental health and substance abuse treatment center. And I believe it was in Oregon. After 38 years in prison, with 27 of those years being in various stints of solitary confinement. So 20 that you put together all his solitary confinement, it adds up to 27 years.
Dang, it's a long time to be by yourself.
The guy that went in prison at 19 years old is now 55, and he walked out of prison legally for once. Yeah. He only made it 10 days when he experienced a manic episode and tested positive for meth. The mental health facility kicked him out, and he went back to prison where he still remains.
God
Uh,
bless somebody.
Between actual using the drug and being kicked out of that mental health facility, it was a parole violation. So the likelihood of him getting paroled again is minimal.
That's incredible.
I hate this story. I hate it. The state of Florida had a significant part in the creation of this problem. And they have done nothing to take responsibility for it. They took this man's entire adult life. So he hasn't grown up at all. In his interviews, you can see that he still acts and thinks like a teenager. I mean, some of that's the fact that, he's always been mentally ill. Some of it's the fact that he's never had a chance to grow up.
Or
I mean,
be
fuck,
around
I
other
didn't grow up
people.
until I was 27. And I was
Yeah.
already, 28. No, 29. It was a while. I grew up right around the time I got my first divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with him being by himself, he was never able to socialize with anybody, to
At least
learn.
not in a normal way.
Right. Man, 27 years.
There are petitions and things like that to get him back out. But I really don't think any of that matters. You can't undo the damage that's been done. I mean, they could put him in rehab, they can get him medicated, and they can have him talking to shrinks. But it's going to boil down to trying to make Tarzan put on a suit and expect him to act normal in the civilized world. I mean, whenever you take him and you put him in like one of those substance abuse treatment things in that kind of structured life, it's still confinement.
Yeah.
And he can't freaking handle it. All that potential that could have made some crazy neat things or even just live quietly somewhere was squandered because no one stopped anywhere along this crazy journey and said, wait a minute, all of this is stupid. And in the closest they came to doing it, it was already too late. I can't tell you what the solution to this is because I don't think any of it could ever be made right. It's just a shitty situation that is most likely going to have an even shittier ending. So my final thoughts on this is fuck you, Florida. You suck and you deserve all your crazy meth heads, your fucking alligators, your giant pythons, all of it. You earned it. You deserve it. Fucking revel in it because y'all suck. Well, the justice system does. I think we have one listener in Florida right now, so that person's awesome. But the justice system there sucks.
Yeah.
It's almost as bad as Canada's, which we've got Canadian listeners now, and someday I might end up doing an episode on how bad y'all's justice system is. We'll see.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, man,
It's almost to the point, though, where they done forgot why he was in prison, and they just started, like, it doesn't matter anymore because of all the
no.
things, of all the rules he's broke now.
That's when he broke laws. He broke
Yeah.
laws when he was in prison trying to get out. In
Yeah.
prison whenever he shouldn't have been in there. I mean, like, seriously, they could have just put him on probation from the very beginning, and that way they still sit there and say, hey, what you did was wrong, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Or suspended sentence, anything. I mean, his dad just fucking died.
Yeah. He had a horrible lawyer at the very beginning.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for this story.
Man,
if you ever feel
what a
like your
story.
life sucks, stop and be grateful that the government didn't steal yours away, because you still have a life. You still have your freedom. Unless you're married to some ball busting person or horrible narcissistic guy, but even then you have freedom to get divorced. Well, join us next time, unless Jason figures out some way to escape the podcast dungeon I keep him in, where you can listen to
I just want to eat, man.
after we record. And if you're lucky, interrupt me again, see if you get to eat.
Yeah, just please hand me the lotion.
No. Get the hose again.
No.
That hose.
Oh, no. Not the rubber one.
Yep. All right. Join us next time. You can listen to more things that'll make you say, wait, what?
Later.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for Waywut. We really appreciate you watching or listening. Please subscribe or follow us on your favorite platform to catch our latest episodes that we publish on Tuesdays and sometimes on Fridays. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's rating us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, commenting on our videos or just a podcast episode, or following us and hitting us up on TikTok, Facebook, or X. You can find us there with our handle, Waywut Podcasts. That's WAYWUT Podcast. And that will do it for this episode. Join us next time and we'll make you say, wait, what?